welcome into another Whoosh Wednesday with me, Louie, where today I don't have anything cool to unbox or to show off. I kind of wanted to take this as just a little corner to talk about my collecting, why I collect, and I guess how I collect in a way, because I've seen a lot of comments about people grading books that are worthless or will never achieve the cost of grading and shipping and all of that, and why grade them. And I think it's important to kind of address that. But before we jump into that, if you're enjoying this channel and this content, remember to comment and subscribe on the video. Comment and like on the videos, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps to support us, and it goes a long way in helping YouTube push the video out to more people so more people can catch it. And thank you everyone for all the support already. I cannot thank you enough. I appreciate it more than I can say. But with that, let's dive into collecting and why some people collect, how some people collect, and collecting for personal collections versus collecting to flip. Okay? I think those are two different things, and a lot of the time those get kind of crossed up and mixed up with people when they're looking at books. And it's really easy, and I completely get all the sides of the argument, but I think it's hard to see why some people do the things they do when it comes to collecting, because it might not seem worth it to you, and there may be no justification at all. So for me, I've shared this I don't know how many times on the channel. I grade a lot of my books because I like the way they look on my wall with my other books. If you looked at them, you could honestly say they're not worth the price of grading them. And to be fair, some of them aren't. Some of the more modern books that I've picked up, I know my wife has loved the covers of, and I've graded them for her so she can hang them up if she wants to, or put them out on display. And those books will probably never achieve being worth more than, I don't know, $5. But the covers are cool, and they double as art, and I think that's something people miss. The covers are art, and yes, the interior pages are art as well, right? But there's nothing wrong with grading a book because you love the cover. It has sentimental value to you. And yeah, you can no longer read the inside of those pages, but you can still look at it as a piece of art for the external cover. Some covers are amazing. Some covers aren't great. It really all depends. But my point is, if you're collecting to flip the book and sell it, or trade it, or do something where there's some sort of profit in it for you, yeah, you have to be careful of those margins. You have to pay attention to, okay, this book is worth $75. I'm paying $40 for it, and shipping is going to cost me another, let's say, $10 if you're only sending in a few books here or there. Because shipping can be anywhere from $15 to $30 depending on who you're going with. Right now, I think CVCS to ship them back to you is $30, and CGC to ship them back right now is about $15. That's the last time I looked. I could be wrong now. But you also have to ship them to the company unless you're going to a show to drop them off, and then you save on shipping that way. So there is a certain portion of being in the hole already, somewhere between $25 and $40 depending on the age of the book, the value of the book, and the shipping involved with getting the books there. So if you're sending in a book that's worth $5, you're doing all this stuff to get it graded, and by the time you're done, you're out $40 or $45 on the book, and you're trying to go sell it for $90, and you think just because it's graded that's going to happen. It's not. When you're trying to be a business, be smart. And that's totally the only advice I would give you. If you're trying to flip and do comics as a business, yes, you have to be wary of which books you are grading, how you're grading them, why you're grading them, and what the grade coming back is. Because just because a book is valuable, if you send in a book expecting to get a 9.8 and you're gauging your prices and whether it's worth it on it being a 9.8, you could get it back in and it could be a 9.4, and that price difference between a 9.4 and a 9.8 is drastic for a lot of books. For almost all books, a 9.4 and a 9.8 are completely different, because 9.8 is basically considered a 10 in the comic collecting industry. A 9.9 is barely, well, was barely impossible. It's becoming more possible now. And a 10 is basically a dream. I don't think I've maybe seen a 10 once, and that was at a Comic-Con. I've never held a 10. I have a 9.9 PGX, but that doesn't really count. No offense to PGX, I mean that with all the love of my heart. The 9.9 from you doesn't really count, though. I have plenty of 9.8s, 9.6s, and so on. But that is the number one thing I would tell you. If you're trying to flip or trade them, to either build up your collection through trades and hoping that grading it will make it slightly more valuable to somebody, it might not. So be wary on that. But if you are collecting because you genuinely love that book, you genuinely want to collect that book, then I can't say anything more than grade it. If you love that book and you want to protect it, then go ahead and grade it. But understand the costs associated with it. Understand that if you go to sell that book, it's likely you're going to lose money on that book. The person you either trade or sell that book to will not value it the same way you do because they don't have that sentimental attachment. And that's okay. I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody don't get a book graded just because it doesn't pop out to the value that makes it something worth grading if it has a sentimental value to you that nobody can put a monetary value on. And I say that as somebody who is currently looking at an X Factor number 6 that is a 5.0 graded by CBCS, where I paid to ship it off and got it back and all of that, and it's not worth it. Value-wise, I will probably not recoup the cost of that book, but it means something to me because it's the first comic book I bought when traveling abroad. And yes, it was only Canada, but still, it was the first one I bought while traveling abroad. It was on a trip with people that I absolutely love. So there's a sentimental value behind that book that makes that book worth more than I can say. Like, I genuinely wanted to get that book graded and preserved because it was worth preserving that memory for me and making sure that book is as well preserved as it can be. So that is what you should do. If you look at a book and you go, okay, if something were to happen to this book and I was to be absolutely devastated, what would I do? Would you be upset? Would you be like, well, that sucks, that was something that had more sentimental value to me than I realized? Maybe if I had graded it would have came out and been okay. You know what I mean? Like, you got to balance that sentimental value versus monetary value. And that is the thing when it comes to your books that I will say more than anything. Look at that balance, because there is a balance, right? If it is a very sentimental book to you, it's one that you wouldn't want to replace, even if it was easy. That replacement book wouldn't meet the sentimental value of that book. Then grade it. And at the end of the day, don't worry about what I say. Don't worry about what other people say. Collect the way you want to collect. Because at the end of the day, the only person who has to be happy with your collection, besides the significant other, I will say that, besides the significant other, because they might get upset. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, like, if you're collecting, do it responsibly, obviously, for your financial situation, but make sure that it makes you happy. And that's the thing I think people end up missing when they're doing this comic thing as a job instead of just a hobby. Like, yes, it's very easy to say, I don't know why people would grade these books, they're worthless, like, and then to be like, well, why would you grade them? Well, because they might mean something to them. It might just be something that they thought, hey, let me put this on the wall with this collection because there's a story that goes with it. Another book I have is, and I've shown it on here when I unboxed it, was Moon Knight City of the Dead #4. Coolest thing was buying the first page from that as an original art at New York Comic Con. And I graded that book because I was like, oh, cool. I have the original art. I have the comic graded, and I have an ungraded version of the book as well. And a digital copy to read. So, like, I have all of those. And the reason I graded the book was I was like, oh, cool. I'm eventually going to get my original art framed. And how great would it be to have that framed and have the book with it? Like, perfect. Absolutely awesome combination. Like, so those type of things, I get a little bothered when the community hates on somebody's grading of a book without actually asking them, sincerely asking, not just being like, well, why would you grade that? But sincerely inquiring why they collect the way they collect, because I think everybody has their own unique story. everyone is worth listening to. At least tell their story. Maybe not like collecting advice wise. And I say that as somebody who's giving advice right now. You don't have to listen to me. Matter of fact, maybe you shouldn't. I don't know. But I think everybody has a story to tell about how they collect and why they collect. And listening to that story either informs your collecting, gives you a better outlook on that person, and expands your horizons on the entire collecting community as a whole. So the next time you ask somebody, why did they bother to get that graded? Do it sincerely. Ask them. Maybe there's a story there they could tell you. Maybe it's a fun story. Maybe it's a sad story. Who knows? But maybe they'll share that story and it'll spark something in you. But let's find out what the story is before we judge it. I guess that's the point. And again, I mean, you don't have to listen to me. I'm just here. But we'll catch you here next time at Whoosh. See ya!